So just to introduce Jame-Lee here, who is an aerialist that I've known for 10 years. We just worked out. I would go through to Glasgow and train at Aerial Edge, and that's when we first met, wasn't it? And Jame-Lee called me 2 days ago, and I was blown away. Like, I think it's amazing everything that you are asking and saying, and I know that a lot of people will be maybe in the same situation or have the same thoughts and feelings about aerial training, where you're at, where you want to go with it. And I guess it was all things that I associated with when you were saying all this, because it's all things that I've felt as an aerialist as well. So do you just want to explain a little bit about what our conversation was, why you were reaching out, basically?
I saw that you were doing the Pilates mat work for Aerialist. They're like a subscription, and I was kind of interested in that, but also like I know what I'm like, which is that I seem to have a lot of good intention, but then also something that's stopping me like getting going with things for a number of different reasons. So I basically was like, I'm just gonna message Debbie and just see what she thinks, if she can answer some questions. And she was really nice and was like, I'll give you a call. And so basically for me, I think with the aerial training, which I've been doing for about 13 years, some of it's you feel the progression, you feel you're learning a lot, you're getting there, and then sometimes there's things that, like, as you learn a little bit, you realize how much you don't know, or it sort of throws everything that you did know kind of into whack, and you feel a bit lost. And I think at the moment, in terms of the Pilates, that's where I'm at. I'm like, I want to do it, but it's really out of my comfort zone, and I know it's going to be really, really helpful, but it means like kind of stepping into the unknown and being humble and accepting that it's going to be a lot mentally as well as physically, and like a lot of sort of rethinking or relearning things about your body. That body awareness is the thing that's really attracting me to it, but it's the part that I know is really like hard to get around, like to fully understand. So I was like, I'm really keen, but I'm worried, and it's my worry that stops me taking part. I think there's times where I want to do the thing, but I know if I'm not quite in the right frame of mind, I might feel it a bit overwhelming, whereas if I'm in a better frame of mind, I can do it. So
what did it feel like when you did do the mat work classes with me? What did it feel like during and after the classes?
So again, it's really dependent on my state of mind a lot of the time, but the things that I've sort of saying there, like it's eye-opening. You're feeling positive because you're doing something that's for you, for your own practice. So you're learning, and that's you need that. If you're not learning, when you're like, if you're just teaching or you're just performing, but you're not actually working on your own practice, you just start to plateau and sort of deflate, and you lose the passion for it, the love for it. So that side of thing, that makes me feel really positive. And then there'll be parts where I'm trying to get my head around things, where obviously that can be frustrating at times. But I think once you keep working through it, like by the end of the session, you obviously feel good because you've got to the end, but maybe at the start, oh my gosh, like here we go again, this is going to be a lot. But actually, I think a lot of times it's never, when you're worried about something, it's never as bad as what you think it's going to be, and when you're actually in it, it's totally fine. Do you know what I mean? So,
and the sticking points that you found hard in the class, would you say that that's areas for you that you need to work on, or were they new?
I think because so I've got probably several sort of I would say longer term injuries or repetitive injuries that come back, so I kind of know I have some problems. And I think I realized straight away that some of the things you were doing, like a lot of glute work and stuff, I was like, I know this is what I need, not that I necessarily know what I need to be doing to make it work. But I know that glute is important for me. I know that core work's important for me, and then you're obviously given those things. So yeah, there's definitely things that I know Pilates is great for. I've done a little bit before, but yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned to me something about, which I think is really interesting, was about you're thinking about opening up a can of worms. Like, you're like, if I go here and work on this, I'm scared I'm going to open up a can of worms.
Yeah, so part of that is like the training, because you're sort of breaking down what you think, or maybe you think about things on like a simplistic level. Like, for example, I know how to do a press up. But then when you look at it in a Pilates way and you talk about the shoulder girdle and, the hip girdle and everything lining up and sort of stability and the position of the shoulders, you realize, oh crap, I haven't been, it's not that, well, you could think of it like, I've been doing that totally wrong. But really it's like, I haven't been aware of the way I've done that for all this time. So part of that, you could take that away and think, oh crap, like what have I been doing?
It's disheartening. Like, it can be
time. Yeah, but I know that, okay, I've just not looked at it in this way and I've not been as aware, and I know that's where I need to be.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think I can definitely relate to that. I know that when I started Pilates like nearly 20 years ago, I found it so disheartening. So I was like, oh my God, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this. And I think also you tapped on something the other day in the phone call, and you said that you get instant gratification with Ariel, because obviously, it's like adrenaline, and we do like fancy things, and it's like exciting, and like, I know I myself, like, I would go and do Ariel, and I'd do the trick or whatever it was on that one side that I was really strong on, because then you'd feel like, like I feel good about myself. And that's what you want. Like, we should want that. That's great. It's amazing. It's like this most amazing skill. But I think that, and I was doing that even when I knew I'd done like Pilates for years. I mean, my little Pilates head was like, do the other side, bring in like balance. And I was like, how can I do this? How can I keep this up? Like, it was just this constant, like, how do I keep balancing it is what I found. But the disheartening, I definitely relate to that as well. But I think you're right. And your attitude is amazing in it, that it's like, hang on a minute, I could perceive it this way, but actually this is what is going to help me. And so I'm going to go with it. And I think that you're totally right. Like the journey of Pilates, you can go into it and think, oh, I'm feeling like I'm opening up a can of worms, and this is, going to make me feel really bad. And then, because you just really delve and you really explore it. But you end up exploring, a physical and mental being as well. But I always feel better at the end of it. And I think that's what's made me continue on this journey of doing it myself and teaching it, essentially. So I would definitely relate to the feeling disheartened on it sometimes as well.
I mean, for sure. It's like, I think a lot of people that have got into Ariel, particularly as a career, then you've probably had that natural ability where you've got that strength. Maybe you've come from dance or something else, so you're coming and straight away you're able to achieve, you're able to do things as you build up strength. You're able to do this trick and that trick, and it isn't really about the strength or the physical ability to do anymore. It's just learning it, and then you'll have your head for that as well, from all the different techniques, different wraps on silks or whatever. So you figure these things out. It becomes easy to transpose onto different equipment. And it opens up, and so you just feel, you're really at home in that world. And then
it's empowering. I think it's really empowering and liberating.
And I love that. And I think the thing with Pilates is probably, it's going back to being a beginner in a new world. And probably a lot of how, maybe students feel when I'm teaching aerial. You know, you ask them, you know, keep going with it and like keep practicing the repetition, it'll come, it'll all start to make sense. And that's easy for me to say, you know,
Yeah.
but you know, it's hard to do. And so yeah, I have to, as a teacher that asks that of my students in an aerial sense, I have to try to be a good beginner student and put myself out there and be like, okay, come on, I need to just give this a go and stick with it if I want to see, you know, see it come through and make sense to me. And yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. That's a huge step. As the other thing I wanted to ask you was about the other course that we have that's Are You Ready to Fly? And overcoming mental obstacles. And you said you looked at the course and you sat there for 5 minutes.
Well, what it was, we were chatting and I think this was probably in text before, and you said, I was saying, I'm struggling, I don't mean to be flaky, I want to come to class, but I can feel it's my sort of inner saboteur is like kicking me. It's like, it's just saying, no, like, you're not actually going to make it. And then, you know, so I was, the issue I was sort of having, you were like, I have a course for this. And you told me about it, and within the text you were like, and facing obstacles, and that sort of put me on the back foot, because I was like, it sounds good, but like, who wants to like face their like face their demons or face their obstacles? And I probably sat for about, you know, 5 minutes just kind of stuck on what to write, because I could have wrote a lot, and at the same time it's like, yeah, I don't want to delve into this, you know, right now. So it was really interesting, because when we got onto the call a couple of days ago, I was just like, yeah, this is what was going in my mind at that moment. You know, I just said, oh yeah, cool, thanks very much, and just like avoided any more chat on that. But it was basically because, yeah, there's everyone, especially now with COVID, but in general, everybody's got a lot going on, and I think
it's intense. It's
intense, and you know, again, I'm getting stuck just thinking about it, because there's so much that you kind of want to say, but then that's the thing where I'm really talking about, like, you open a can of worms, and our training is so linked to our like mental well-being, our sort of, it's our identity, and it's our life a lot of the time. It isn't like a 9 to 5, you go in, you do your job, you step away. It's your life. And especially as a teacher, as a performer as well, because obviously that has impact on the audience. But I think as a teacher, when you're working face to face with people or regularly with people, and you see the effect it has on them, these things are so intertwined with your own state of well-being. So to tackle one, you're kind of delving into the other as well. So the course makes sense, because as I say, I want to progress with my aerial. I think Pilates will help that, but I can feel the sort of mental health side of things kind of impacting on that. So
and then I shared with you, which I think is really interesting, and it's something that I learned in the making of the course. So in the making of it, that we were calling it face your fears, and I was like, you know, when I was an aerialist and we faced fears and we had to, you know, do these things and trust, and you know, it's fear, and I revisited fear again, like, but in a different way. Do you know, like, maybe like fear in admin, fear in, you know, life things, like, to just different. Like I looked at it again, and when I was creating the course, I was, you know, writing things out and getting used to it and everything. And then I kind of realized, like, within myself, I was like, oh God, so you have to, like, I think it's really important to be softer, like, because I think I tend to be like, I face my fears and I'm gonna do it, and like, and then I kind of realized in writing it, like, actually, you know, asking people, including myself, to lean into it. And what would happen if you leaned it, you know, because facing your fears, like, it's right there, like, this is, why would I do that? Like, why would I do that? Whereas I think then it's like leaning in you know, what are the tools that I can get that are going to make this easier and gentler, and like how can I slowly step there and then you know that that's okay, and then I'll step a bit further and that's okay, and I'll step a bit further and I'll learn and I'll grow from it.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting that as well, because that was definitely a huge process in writing it, that like I needed to learn, and I was like, I just loved it even more then, because I was like, I was learning again. Do you know what I mean? It's like you say, like you think you know it and then you learn again and you learn again. And so, yeah, I think it's it is so true what you say about Ariel, though. It can be a lot of your identity, like, you know, like it's, I'm an aerialist. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't do aerial, I'm an aerialist. Like, it is, you're right, you're totally right. It's really yeah.
And I think, like, you were some of the things you've been writing for your other courses and talking about, you know, the way that we train and stuff, and how we are sort of, in a lot of ways, we are really gung-ho and we go right into things, you know, and we just want to get it done, and push through and be strong and those kind of things.
And that's the strength of it. That's the amazing thing. And it you know, it can teach you a lot in life, and it empowers you, and you feel liberated. And you're like, yeah, go, just do it. Yeah, like you say, be strong, you know, determined, and supportive environment, and all these kinds of things as well.
And I think with the Pilates and with the course, I've forgotten the name of your course. I'm sorry. What are you calling it?
Oh, Aerial Pilates, teacher training.
No, the fly.
Oh, are you ready to fly?
Are you ready to fly? So
yeah, overcoming mental obstacles.
Right. So with that one and with the Pilates, I think both of them in a way are not asking you, but they're courses that are going to make you stop and think. And sometimes that's the hard part, is if you are a sort of, you're just gung-ho, you're just going ahead, you're just doing your thing, you're training, and you've got injuries and they're coming, and you're just trying to forget about that and keep going, because that's not going to stop you getting on and doing your aerial stuff like while you still can, because, you know, everybody's worried that you can only do it for so long, you know, until your body's knackered. But we don't want that. But we're just going to keep going, because, you know, I've got a gig here, I've got teaching there, I can't really stop. And I think, you know, so those things are linked with the identity as well, you know, like
so
we've got a sense.
Does it feel like there's something like you'd be drawn back? You'd be doing back steps?
You would need to stop a little bit. You would need, it feels like you're going to have to stop for a minute and just face. You're just going to have to face these things that you're trying to ignore, like the injuries,
right?
Worry about, I don't know, you know, where you're going with your career and different things like that, you know. So you're gonna have to just like stop, and you're just gonna have to think a little bit and reflect.
And how does that feel?
I think that's the part that's quite scary, because I was talking to you about, especially with COVID, that sort of feeling a little bit lost, and in what direction am I going to go? You know, am I going to keep teaching? Can I keep teaching? Because a lot of studios are having to close, or the online situation, obviously not being face to face, you know, it has a lot of barriers in terms of what we're able to continue doing. So, you know, we're already trying to face that, I suppose, and so this is like, okay, it's also going to mean facing these things, and then facing maybe other mental obstacles that, you know, you have on a general basis, never mind COVID, and you might have to deal with those. So it's like, okay, so this is going to mean I'm going to have to stop and think about these things. But actually, if you think about it, just to keep going gung-ho as you would do without looking at these other things, you know, is not going to be helpful in the long term. So I think it's, yeah, like, you know, it's something that you should do, even though your aerial brain tells you, no, just push past that pain, just keep going, right? Fine. Like, no.
Do you feel that it would bring you a bit of balance?
I mean, I'm a Libra. I'm always searching for balance. I'm always like looking for, you know, for that. But yeah, like I think yeah, I think it's I want to feel more rounded, more holistic, and rather than just yeah, rather than just keep going. I mean, it's it's like, you know, just doing the aerial and not doing the warm up and not doing the conditioning and not doing the stretching after. Like, I do feel like sometimes that's where we go, and and I'm probably
I've done it. I've done
one
it.
that does that literally, but I also mean
Yeah.
it in a more general sense, that rather, like, you know, the amount of
Yeah.
time that me and my
But
partner will talk about wanting to go to physio, but we've not got any money to do that, so we'll just
right.
keep going anyway.
Right.
Our bodies are just going to magically recover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember what I wanted to go and get acupuncture and massage, and I wanted to get all these regular things. But you're right, it was finances. It was like, how to do all that as well as balancing it. It was
Yeah. And I
yeah.
think that's what appeals with you know, the idea of injury prevention and that self-care. If, you know, if I'm able to learn from this and find the ways that I can train in a more smart and safe way so that I can, you know, prolong my body and also have like a more holistic way of looking at training, rather than just, you know, straight down the middle, do the tricks, which is not my way. But you know, it can feel that way sometimes, that you just keep banging on and not going on with everything else around. But yeah, but first for my students as well, you know, like a lot of them you know, if they see this, they'll know that I've said, you know, do as I say, not as I do, because I've learned from my mistakes. So I'm trying to pass on to you my knowledge.
Yeah, which I mean, I completely relate to that, and that is why this course came about, because I was like, you know, like I said, like same thing, had exactly the same problems, like tried to like self-care while I was teaching Pilates. Like, do you know what I mean? I was literally like, wow, this is just so I found it really hard as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I definitely think that it's a challenge as an aerialist and an aerial training as well, to stay and be in tune with your body as well as you're doing it. And I really enjoy now being in the air, even if it's like this height, and then, you know, exploring, like trying to, like, because I feel like I'm going back and revisiting all the stuff that I did, like, you know, 12 years ago when I started aerial. And it's just interesting because it's like you're revisiting the same things, but then you're just fine-tuning as well. So I think that sometimes it can feel like how you were saying about stopping. You have to stop and you have to go back and stuff. And sometimes I think it's the power of the brain is amazing. Like, I think sometimes like we can just revisit things and then just like use our neural connection, our body. We've maybe had a pattern of a certain way, but it's actually amazing how much we can shift that pattern just with awareness. So we revisit it and it feels like, oh God, we're going backwards. But sometimes I think it can be like a catapult. So you can visit it, you know, you feel like, oh, I'm you know, now I can hardly do anything, or, you know, I'm trying to do this bridging with one leg and that's really hard, but I can do these fancy tricks. Do you know what I mean? So it can kind of feel, that's me. If I do bridging and I have like, you know, it's my left side. If I have my left foot on the floor, I find it like so hard. And with the right leg in the air to support the left side of my pelvis, because it's, you know, it's that imbalance that I'm still working on. And I think it can feel like that, but then as soon as you've done that moment, your body remembers it. It wants to be whole. It wants to find this neutral ground again, this balance. And then I think sometimes it can catapult you, because then suddenly, you know, like, well, not suddenly, but well, it is.
No, I understand that. I've definitely had that with different things. Like,
yeah,
I'm sure any areas will understand. You have that eureka moment and things click, and something you've been working on for a while, like it works, and your body just gets it, and you'll do it the first time. You'll be like, oh my God, like where did that come from? But if
yes,
you're working on, you know.
And it's just keeping on getting those. Like, I think that's it, isn't it? It's like drawing back, going on. It's like, it really is that tortoise and hare. I've had to work on being a tortoise, like, to get there. balanced, chilled, slower. Like, it's having faith, I think, in the steps that you're taking and the decisions that you're making and on the journey as well.
Yeah, and I think when I say like stop, I don't feel like, it's going to stop my practice. I'm not stopping teaching, anything like that. It's just like it's stopping and have a look around at where you are and just having a bit of an assessment of where you think the gaps are and what you think might be able to sort those out.
That's a breakthrough. That's a eureka right there.
Yeah, rather than just plodding on down the same path. It's just having a look, just opening up a little bit and going, oh yeah, there's a few things that would just, if I just take these, you were saying tools and it's one of the things that you're using for your workshop. And I'm like, yeah, give me these tools to go with me on this journey, because I'm finding I'm a bit lost and a bit struggling without them.
Yeah.
So just want to fill in those gaps. And then, because I think just because, and this is making me feel better about the situation, just because I don't get Pilates doesn't mean all my other knowledge is null and void. What I'm going to do is enhance and maybe give me a deeper understanding of things I already know. There's a lot of things that we'll do as good technique or whatever without really having to know much more than that in order to physically do it. But it's so important, like as a teacher, to be able to explain to your student, why are you doing what you're doing? And I think yes, we can do that. Oh yeah, because then we're aligned, then we're straight, whatever. But I really like the idea of my knowledge being deeper than that, not just not so simplified, and being able to feel it rather than just
doing the work within.
Doing it, yeah.
Should we have a little look at the toolkit?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you get on with the next part of the course? Did you go in and do?
Yeah, so there was lots of different options there, which I think is good, because you can definitely pull out the ones that feel like they'll work for you. So I looked at visualization, which is something that I would do anyway, but it's good to do it with a more sort of mindful approach to it. So mindfulness was another one, something that I've looked into as well, but thinking about them almost together.
Cool.
I found it useful. And so thinking about the times where I had been, but in the beginning, like my frame of mind was like, no, I'm not willing to look at that. That's not going to help me at all. But on reflection, that maybe having looked at some of the other ones and using them, maybe I would look at that again, and I might, as I say, interpret it slightly differently and just try to think about it as, okay, this is the thing that's bugging me, and I'm going to try and let that go. Because I think that's a common thing, we can bring all these things up, but sometimes it's trying to let them go and let them dissipate that is the difficult thing. So admitting that they're there or facing them a little bit is the first thing, but then actually, letting that fear go or working with it and developing it is like, another thing or the next thing.
Yeah. And do you know what's interesting there is that you said the word facing it as well, whereas we were talking at the start of like thinking even the language and the words of saying, oh, you're going to face something. And I spoke about it in terms of like writing the material and then saying, it's more leaning into something and gently going into it. It's just really interesting that you've said that there. Like it's, you sound like you just sound so much clearer.
Yeah, well, I think, I think I talked about at the start of this before I'd sort of looked into the course too much, that it felt like it would open a can of worms. And I was worried I was going to have to deal with all my fears and insecurities and stuff, maybe all at once, and that would be really overwhelming. But I think the way that it was, you were only looking, you don't necessarily need to pick your most deepest, darkest fears and your scariest thing that you're dealing with at this time, like as the first thing. So like the thing that I thought was silly to deal with, which was when I was shopping and I was getting stressed out, thinking I was making all the wrong choices and that I was, you know, like getting overwhelmed, like to look at that and go, okay, well, if I can deal with that, if I can break that down and look back at it, and if I can look at the driving and that's more important to me, and I can look at that, then maybe I can look at other fears that, you know, might be even deeper. Like those things are things that everybody's going to deal with. But things about sort of my aerial career and my, you know, and a lot of my purpose and my worth is kind of linked into that. And I think that's where it gets more, yeah, you're putting more of yourself out there, and your identity is coming into it more. So I think, look, if I use those toolkits, now that I've sort of had almost like a practice with them, to look at something that is, perhaps I'm more emotionally invested in again.
You know, honestly, you've done incredible, because you've done incredible, because it's really amazing. It's really amazing even just to hear this as well. And I really like your example of being at the shops as well, because we all know, like, you know, that experience kind of thing. And to take it from something small to something medium to like, that's a skill set. So you then kind of, it's like how that progresses, and also how the small things affect the larger things, or how the larger things can be broken down into small steps. Like, it's really nice to hear all of this.
Thanks. Well, yeah, it's been good to do. And this week's been a little bit crazy, but I've seen your thing about Pilates on Friday, so I'm excited to sign up for that and get back into like a live class, and hopefully get some more of the videos done in the run up to that. So I am definitely feeling more positive about getting on with those things.
Yeah, that's huge, Jame-Lee. Honestly, it's amazing.